We're very excited to kick off this panel discussion, how real-time engagement overlays can transform media and entertainment. Today's session will be moderated by Tony Wang. He is the co-founder of Agora with responsibility for emerging technologies and APAC markets. Tony has over 15 years of technology and startup experience and has been with Agora for over 4 years. Tony, it's great to have you here. We invite everyone from the audience to add your questions under the questions tab to the right of the screen, and we will get to them at the end of the session. And Tony, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us for my second panel for the day. We're very excited here with some of our guests. Michael Dell coming from Caffeine.TV. If you guys remember Caffeine.TV, this is one of the pioneer of the ultra low latency B2C apps, based in Silicon Valley, and even Agora, check them out for their ultra low latency and a lot of those innovations. So we are very happy to have him join us, and he'll give us a longer intro in a bit. The other guest is actually our very Matt from Greenroom, currently under Spotify. And again, we're very excited. I think Spotify has the pioneer of one of the, I use them for over like 8 years now, streaming music. And frankly, since I get on Spotify, there's no radio. I don't use any radio. I don't use any XMM because this is my personalized stream. And I think that is very important for anybody who the time is precious. You enjoy the personalization of the whole thing, right? So we'll hear what Matt have to say about the social layer over the media content, right? And then what the future holds. So having said that, I'd like to have Michael start, maybe tell us more about your company.
Sure. So hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Tony, and everyone. Caffeine is a live streaming platform where we do ultra low latency content that we produce, as well as sort of some UGC streams. The content format sort of tries to incorporate the elements of the low latency interactivity. So things like voting and reactions and prop drops can affect the live broadcast as it's produced. We're based out of Redwood City, as mentioned, and focusing on sort of street culture content.
Great. I think I like that word you said, street culture. I think we'll touch that in a bit. Matt, please.
Sure.
Hey, Tony. Thanks for having me. Always glad to chat with you. This time we have just some people listening. But thanks again for having me. And just a quick little blurb about me. So I run the live team at Spotify. As Tony mentioned, we're building live audio experience within Spotify, currently as a separate app called Greenroom, which you can download from the app in the Play Store now. And this is kind of a new market for everybody, but I'm excited to chat about what's going on here.
Yeah, I think given the news from AWS yesterday, they are entering into the live audio space, what Agora calls the Livecast, right? I think this space is getting very interesting, right? I mean, one thought was like, okay, this is going to replace a radio station, but I actually don't think exactly like that, right? I mean, so we will definitely touch some of those, yeah. So having said that, I think one of the things we are facing for the last 18 months in the United States is really the basically the COVID, right? COVID has been predominant changing, and I would say the accelerator factor of those ones, right? Last year this time, a relative term called social audio, and really in the same time, people less noticed is social video co-watching, right? Like companies basically a layer on top of co-watching Netflix together. So basically the social layer, social real-time layer on top of the media, that term has been throughout, right, on a global scale. And I would say at least moment, there's at least 20 plus apps with the live social audio, and maybe like 5 or 10 with live video co-watching party, especially on the sports side, right? So now it has been 12 months since then. We've seen some of those, basically changes the way that content is being produced, right? I mean, in my morning session, the content is basically the boundary between the linear and the non-linear, PGC and UGC content has been very blurred, right? content, how the content is being consumed, right? No longer you have to be like, oh, let's buy, let's book early. You can basically drop in anytime, you can leave anytime, right? And how it's being monetized, which I think would be very interesting to think about how those will be monetized. From our data, we see an order of magnitude high monetization per user, right? Per active user, right? In the same, but we can drill down into that. And so basically having all those, right? So our first question is, the media, people used to call it social media, right? I mean, really, in my view, in some of the people we talk to, we believe it's really about media social. You are not going to have any meaningful social organization or graph without the media, right? Because without media, you are limited to your contact address book, right? Your friends, right? You're not going to have a conversation with people you don't know in the virtual space without anything, right? So given that, the fusion of the linear and the scripted content into the non-linear, ad hoc, interactive, or micro, as you call it, like a straight culture, right? All those future, like, what is your view on this trend? So let me be specific. How do you think this trend? I mean, why now, right? I mean, obviously, COVID is one, but is COVID the only one? And what do you think this trend is? And where do you think this trend might go?
Sure. Do it. You want me to go first, Matt?
I have some thoughts, but I don't really mind either way.
Sure. Yeah. So I think we're seeing kind of a transition of the live broadcast, as you mentioned, sort of media provides the context for conversation, and we've done some product features around sort of live co-hosting, whereby a member of the community can sort of put their video on top of a live stream to sort of provide their own commentary around it. And that's been kind of an interesting mode to it's kind of similar to some of these audio chat systems where there's sort of the main broadcasted content and then sort of a circle of people talking about it. Though the primary mode of interaction is still sort of the reaction system, which kind of functions like chat, but in our case, a little bit more organized around your social circle, right? So when you think about it, like a large live street culture event with 100,000 concurrent people in the same space, like you kind of need to think about ways to make that social relevant to you and the people that are within your adjacency. So thinking about ways to personalize the chat feed relative to the people that you follow and relative to the people that are your friends is also something we've been working on and have some features around. If that's sort of just how we've approached the issue in general, right? Like in terms of how we've tried to appropriate or look at those trends as they apply to the product in the case of caffeine.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to unpack here. And one of the things that when I look at live in general, I kind of imagine a matrix, actually. There's like a lot of variables here, right? So we're talking about linear or scripted content versus unscripted. But there's also, live versus like time shifted content. I think kind of differentiating that is important here. And also depending on video and audio, the trends are going to go differently. And so we can go through some examples, right? So if you look at Twitch, which is probably one of the biggest pioneers for the live kind of section of this matrix, they started off completely with unscripted content, right? Just completely UGC, and it was like 2010, 2009, I forgot when they launched. But at this point now, almost a decade later, they're actually moving a lot towards more scripted content. So you see a lot of their biggest streams, the ones that have massive viewerships, are ones where they have big influencers on kind of scheduled, planned content in advance. And the UGC, while they have regular viewers, it's still, I don't think the scale, I'm not sure if that's something that they want to push for long term. It's hard to tell. For Spotify specifically, we're in the audio space, right? And Tony, you were talking earlier about reinventing radio, right? That's something we think about a lot. And specifically around not only just the live experience and adding commentary and allowing real-time engagement, interactivity to the audio content, but also taking that content and time shifting it so that it can be viewed later. So if you look at like, we'll go back to Twitch, a lot of their creators will actually take their VODs and re-upload them to monetize later, right? And if you look at like traditional TV as well, like sports, people will still watch the games afterwards. Although viewership is not as much, there's still a market there for time-shifted content. So one of the things that we're evaluating a lot here is kind of that additional value and making sure that we're not only focusing on the live, but also focusing on how the interactivity can then come into the time-shifted content. So like radio is a great example because, you can call in to your favorite show and start speaking with the host, your favorite host. That's one crucial piece of interactivity here that this new social audio space is unlocked, where not only can you text chat like Twitch had before, but now you can also easily interact with the content and create new different types of formats of content along with that. And the last thing I wanted to touch on really briefly too was I guess actually I don't think, okay, sorry. So a little more context for y'all listening. I think the space, I have to be careful about what I'm allowed to speak about. So I think maybe Tony, if we can go to the next question.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll add one little point to what he was saying. Just sort of the format also dictates like the types of interactive loops that can take place thereafter, right? So because Caffeine is publishing these battle rap competitions or dance competitions, it is suitable for sort of rehashing or revisiting and overlaying additional conversations around the content because of the competitive nature, like because the format is one in which there's a winner and a loser, and it's not like clear cut who was the winner and who was the loser. There's just a lot of room for sort of additional UGC to layer on top of that. And that's where we kind of see those like video, co-hosting or people speaking on top of historical rap battles leading into a rap battle, and those sort of richer engagement, an extension of the value of the original aired content.
Yeah, correct. And also, Tony, you asked a good question, which was, why was COVID the reason for kind of all of these new formats and discoveries? And I think, yes, certainly it did affect it, but also technology. A company such as Agora, the technology has improved so much for scalability and unlocking kind of these massive scale live experiences, which were really not available even like half a decade ago. Yeah.
Correct. I think that's a good question. I think it's technology and also the people's viewpoint. I remember 15 years ago, I pride myself on setting my own server, right, and my own racks and everything, right. I think right now, if anybody tells me and hire me as, let's say, a chief technology guy, and tell me, Tony, you got to set up your own server, I'm like, why? What? Really? Have you heard of Amazon, right? But 15, 20 years ago, it's actually not that the case. I think the infrastructure, what Agora provide, is a similar view, right? So are you a CTO want to be known for double the company's valuation in the creator content experience side of it, or you want to be known for the CTO who saved company $1 million a year by DIY, right? And missed out that $1 billion, the whole content, the future of media space, right? So that is a concept. I can see that concept shift versus from DIY open source, like, there's a very strong thing over here. Like, I'm a tech guy. If I don't use open source, I am be shamed. Right? Or who says that? I mean, Linux is open source and then also commercial, right? So right. Reddit, there's so many, Redis, right? There's so many things that is mixed. What is open source, right? It's community contribute, and Agora is the same thing. So I think in that sense, that brings us to the very interesting, to recap your first thing is really the interactivity. The interactivity of the medium is what really is evolving because people are demanding it. COVID accelerates, mobile facilitated, right? Now, I want to add one more thing. I was having a very interesting chat. I think one of the big things that this kind of interactivity brings to the table is the idea of social graph. If you think about, back in the radio, yes, I can call in, very, very hard. But yes, I can do that. But I have zero interaction with my other audience. I have zero interaction with my hosts, the content, and between the hosts, there is zero interaction. So the interactivity does not exist. Thus, for that reason, the social graph is not exist. That's actually bring to the second topic. It's not persistent, right? It's almost like people, I mean, that's a buzzword of, basically the buzzword right now is metaverse and NFT. Like if you are going to a VC without metaverse and NFT, you feel ashamed right now, right? But what is that? Like in my view, those persistent audio room and the live that people enjoy on Caffeine TV, when you add the chat layer, when you add the social graph, that for me is a word. Remember, not long ago, 20 years ago, we're living in a world of basically like a mud, like a relay chat, IRC, right? That for me, when I was first exposed in the internet with Telenet, right, with a text only interface, I feel I was in that space. It was so strong. I can feel the person. I can feel his happiness, sadness in the other side of my, Telenet port 21, right? So, that's nothing fancy. No music, no audio, no background, no AI, no nothing. But I am absorbed because my emotion is in it, right? Because I feel a personal connection. So I think two other factors I want to bring up here and hear your, kind of thinking where this will go is A, the social graph, right? B, the persistent space. So I want to hear, let's say, Michael. So you guys now moving into a lot of the street thing. I know those people are very passionate about music and they know each other. They are homies. They hang out, they go to barbecue, get the beers together, right? So how do you see Caffeine further leverage those social graph and persistency? How does that interaction with the content, with the interactive format of content, and basically moving forward, usually people say the medium is a message. I believe we are in a phase, right? This medium we have here is a new medium, real-time engagement. That is a new medium. We don't have to look into the old way of doing things. Nobody cares about 4K. Mm-hmm. When you are doing a rap battle, who cares about 4K, right? Mm-hmm. It's about interactivity. So what's your view on that one? Social graph and persistent space. How do you see that plays into your current audience and what this might evolve, down?
Yeah, I think that's the fundamental difference or the fundamental element of social broadcasting, right? Is that we have that social graph transposed or layered on top of this live experience, and that takes different forms. That whether it's sort of chatting with your friends around the live experience and providing commentary on it, or whether it's sort of the connections and the follows relative to like somebody using a mobile broadcasting, walking into the show as a backstage thing, and then the social, the physical sociality, the physical social network that is broadcasted out relative to each of those individuals that are part of the produced content having their own accounts on the platform as well. So I think it's fundamental to what we're trying to accomplish, and I think there's lots of room for us to do more in the space of sort of exposing that social network, both in sort of the interactive format of the content that's produced, leading in with live mobile broadcasting or live interactive voice or video commentary, and then into the live show format itself that's produced, and as the live show is happening, ways for you to interact within your social group without sort of the noise of the other 100,000 people that are watching it at the same time. We sort of take the metaphor of like a concert when we think about product features, and sort of think like, I go to a concert, I want to have fun, I want to hear that there's a lot of noise around me, that this is a big show. I want the gravity of the fact that this is a key moment, but I also want to be able to be with my friends at the concert and socialize with them and hear what they're saying about and experience it with them. So that's kind of some of the thinking that we try to capture as we look at the product features.
Yeah. Yeah, and the energy of that concert that you just mentioned, I don't know if you've checked out like streams that have hundreds of thousands of users, but the energy is very noticeable. Just like in the chat, right? It's scrolling. You can't read a single message. All you can just see is just characters flying like at a crazy rate. And I think that energy, it's noticeable. Even if the content were the same, if you held it constant, enabling and disabling the chat really does make a huge difference on kind of like what you're feeling when you kind of consume the content. And also touching on a quick thought on the social graph thing, I think also beyond the social graph of just your homies, like expanding, I think clout specifically is a really big incentive driver for content creators in general. So enabling them to build clout and expand their own graph is another tool for a platform to try to get better content.
The status of, and I think that the status and sort of the prop dropping and the ways in which you gain status through your expression on the platform, sometimes monetarily or transactionally based, but like getting that, or sometimes related to the fact that the person that's produced that is in the produced show, the different ways to kind of elevate your presence and status as part of the interactive format is definitely something that plays into it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So, okay. So what do you guys think about that other sector of it? See, right now, most things happen. Let's say before the COVID, you run an event, right? You put up a very expensive event, whether it's music concert or whether it's esports, or it's a rap battle offline in some club, right? When it's done, it's done. People go back to home. They actually, worse, they don't go back home. They go to Facebook, Instagram, and all the other people that makes them money. Well, you are the person put all those things up, but the money is monetized over there, right? So how do you think about the persistent layer? Now that you have, profile page, follow, be able to chat, be able to even set up their own group chat room and do a lot of stuff, right? How do you, Mike, do you think down the line, Caffeine would have, let's say, allow their user as they go to the battle, allow their fan club to basically have a persistent fan club? Because one of the app we noticed in Southeast Asia, they actually have the persistent room. Let's say you have a rap battle, his room never stops. It's there 24/7, 365 days. So there is a fan. There's always man in the room, and sometimes when the singer is happy, he will drop in, say, "What's up, y'all?" Right, and then he'll go off. And then here's the thing: his fan is always checking out, and the fan will talk to each other, and they will tip it, just because, right? So do you see that kind of thing happening in your end, like persistence?
Yeah, we've taken some steps in that direction. We're trying to minimally just sort of have the replays available. The stage itself, like today, transitions to sort of a replay of the event after the event has ended in general, and that facilitates sort of an ongoing conversation. So you still have co-presence of the presented content post the live event with the replay tag. It's certainly not to the level of perhaps some of the more sophisticated Asian platforms that you're describing, but that would definitely be a direction for which we'd want to explore and do more there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is something we can look at here, which is esports. You mentioned, Tony. They have massive events that they live stream, and as Michael was saying, basically after the live stream ends, they just rerun it over and over. And a lot of these live stream channels actually just are running 24/7, even perhaps now, even though like the last event could have been a long time ago, just because I think from their perspective, there probably is no reason to shut off the broadcast. But I will say, like, if you look at the numbers, it does seem like the interactivity is much, much lower. And the folks that seem to engage with the reruns are just consuming, but not like commenting. So I've noticed like in those kinds of broadcasts where it's a rerun, the chat is basically dead. Even though the numbers of people watching may be high, those consumers aren't really interested. Like, it seems like they're only going to be interested in interacting when the moment is live and not when it's like persisted.
I think we certainly with like that's certainly a friction point that we've observed, right? Like the live reaction format is not best for the rerun. More of a YouTube commentary. We're looking at asynchronous commenting and ranking, and perhaps enabling somebody to rehash it, but asynchronously, not the live stage format that
that makes sense.
Inherited a replay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. So on top of persistence, that actually brings up another topic. We see basically the all the government is throwing out their version of privacy policy in each different region, but online world has been fusion. in a speed that is unheard of. Like before, like when Agora is started, most of the app is regional, even in a country. Like, oh, I am the XX of this country, right? I am the XX of Europe, right? But now you see more and more, basically, I mean, especially in some of those social video, social audio space, like they are very global. They're very global. So back to that, Matt, this question is actually for you, right? Traditional radio is very regional content audience and regional events, right? But when it comes to social audio, and especially when it comes to like music, there's content related social audio, do you think this is going to be stay the same, or you think it's going to be very different?
Well, with radio specifically, to me, it always felt like that would be like a technology limitation. I imagine most of these radio stations would have preferred a broader audience if it was possible. Of course, you do have like local stations that would really report or talk about local things like news that no one else would care about. But I think, now with the internet as strong as it is, and as you mentioned, all these platforms going global, it really doesn't seem like there's any reason to cater to specific local regions. In fact, it seems like the major barrier nowadays is just language. So that's like kind of how a lot of these platforms filter, like theoretically, like broadcasts are available to any user globally. But the main limitation is that they wouldn't be able to understand what's happening. So I think just continuing to push on that and allowing anybody in the world to join any broadcast is only going to benefit.
Correct. I think we've seen some of those, from the popular app Clubhouse, right? I have my friend who joined a room that is in a language he does not understand. So I was asking him, like, why you do that? He's like, well, because it's fun, right? It's so fun. Yeah. Yes, he may not understand, but he trying to using Google Hangout, whatever ways Google Translate, he trying to get some glimpse of it, but be able to talk to the similar-minded people at the same level, for a different world. That is fascinating for him. I think it's almost like intelligence getting high, right? So I think, and then without having to fly in there and stay 2 weeks in quarantine, right? So, and then this is basically 24/7 in your fingertip, right? So I think, Matt, I totally agree with you. I think while radio is very regional, but that is not because they want it this way. They just have to do it. The tower, the broadcasting tower has a limit, right? The sponsorship has a limit, but not for social audio or social video in that case. There is no limit. One of the app we have a customer in Southeast Asia, they actually was able to catering their global people. Like, there's a lot of people from their country live outside, right? That became a very niche community, right? And it's very bonded community. I mean, the kind of monetization on that one is way stronger than Facebook ever could achieve. Way stronger. The kind of bonding is way stronger than Facebook, the family tie, right? So I think with the things we're coming, do you think, say for example, Michael, this question for you, do you feel, let's say you guys continue go down that path, right? Do you feel you might become a niche community or a social network with all the urban art, whether it's a fashion, whether it's tattoo, whether it's, it doesn't matter, but urban arts, and expanding beyond the boundary of United States, became the global destination?
Yeah, that's certainly the goal. I mean, we just aired some dance stuff from Paris the other week, and it was well received. I think, it's certainly the idea is to expand from that niche focus into broader applicability.
I'm a big fan of that. I think a lot of people think music is great, and don't get me wrong, I think music is great, but if you see the visual impact of a good planned dance, right, especially multiple people, that give you tremendous enjoyment. And if the audience can fit in together, I was on YouTube watching that. I'm not sure if you're the cave cat. The cat was meow, and then they made it into a DJ mix. Right? Do you guys remember that YouTube? I was like, okay, this is something Agora is fascinated about. We are thinking, okay, how can our technology help facilitate those kind of player, right? So how can the rap battle and the beats, the bass, all those people coming from different place at extremely low cost of production, synchronized and join together rap battle, right? And then with audience coming from the global participate, one thing with those things happening is the monetization of it, right? So the audience side monetization, how is that happening, right? It just getting very fascinating if you thinking deeper into this, right? So now, having said that, let's go to the second one, right? Obviously, we are business, right? So what are the key factors in your view, like social audio, social video? What are the key factors to make this transformation successful, or just make this whole thing successful? Is this like have the best technology, or hiring the kick-ass product people, or have millions dollars through music acquisition of the audience, or acquisition on the premium content? Like, what are the key factors in your mind?
I can just give like some quick high level. I mean, I don't have anything. I don't have like a really great answer here, but I'd say, yeah, just solid product, which means, great user experience, ease of use, but also what people really sleep on are notifications. Intelligent manufactured notifications are going to be huge. Just making sure that folks don't get notification fatigue, which is an issue with a lot of the platforms. You get way more notifications than you want. And making sure that you work on that conversion rate of folks actually diving into engaging with the notification. Another thing would be having the buy-in from the influencers, having big content on. It's kind of like a chicken and egg problem, because the influencers don't want to be on unless there's consumers, and vice versa. But if a platform can get early buy-in from big influencers, you're going to see some pretty good success for sure.
Yeah, I think it is a combination of all those things working together, right? Like, you can't just have a solid project or product with all the bells and whistles and gamification of all the incentives for props and accumulation of status without the content, right? Like, it doesn't work. I mean, you can do it; it just doesn't create the something different and something interesting for people to come to. And so I think we've at Caffeine have really been investing in that premium content production. We're producing these live events, and then in producing those live events, we're able to adapt the format to the interactivity elements of our platform, right? Because we're making the thing happen. Not as much as we want to. There are lots of ideas, more ideas than what we actually do, of course. But we've done some experiments with getting sort of the props projected as people drop props. It's not just like a little overlay, but also casted into the space visually, and so the dancer or the people get a sense of the concert hall, if you will, the virtual concert hall, if you will, and the activity of people expressing their support for the artist. So a lot of things like that, I think, need to come together for the whole thing to work. You can't just do one side of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Correct. So that's actually bring to my other question is a lot of people thinking engagement as ways of making money. I mean, I actually think different. I think in making money is a result of engagement, right? So for me, the virtual overlay is a form of bring people together, and the fact that they are together, that create emotion buy-in of whatever things they are doing or content they are consume. And then from that, monetization is very easy because people have the tendency to do it, right? I mean, they've been trained to do it, right? So do you guys think about, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just like the rule of B2C, I feel like, is, you just need to get the eyeballs, and the monetization will just follow.
Yeah, have to be habit forming. Right, people have to come back regularly, and it has to be something that they integrate into their, daily or bi-daily routine, so that they have that propensity to return to the platform and engage, and then monetization can follow for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how long did it take for Snapchat? They didn't even monetize for the longest time.
Right.
And you could argue that they kind of killed their product when they went for that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Snapchat is a very interesting one. Turns out you don't really have a large group there. Usually the user has a very close-knit, a small group, right? And that's the thing, right? So I think that's actually very interesting. On this side, people also, I mean, YouTube has eyeballs too, right? I mean, Facebook has eyeballs, at least your grandma's eyeball for sure. But how our engagement different? I mean, one thing I was thinking is more about emotion, right? It's engaged is there. I mean, yes, screen time for sure, right? That's almost like table stake. If you don't even have that, we should not be on this panel discussing this, right? But the next generation of question is you need them to be involved, right?
Right.
And I want to go back to what Michael said. One thing is the audience. Let's see, I'm in a concert, right? It's important, I can hear other people, but it's also important I can have multiple level. I have my own circle, I have myself, I have one-to-one. So it's almost like you have 4 layers of involvement in that surrounding. You on your own is consume the content, right? You can direct message another people, another audience, another all the people, right? That's a level 2. It's conversation. Level 3 is your small group. You're like, okay, 3 of us, we're watching one of the talk show, and we're like, oh, we're making cracking jokes, inappropriate jokes, right? But it's so much fun, right? It cannot go public for sure, right? And then, and then layer 4 is really your public. It's basically all the text flying, all the raise your hand, ask a question in public, right? So it's almost like 4 layers there. But I think. Here's something when audio has an advantage. The video, face, is a very expensive social currency. I mean, a lot of people don't want to see it. Maybe they haven't cleaned their background yet, right? You don't see it. But audio is so easy, effortless, right? So, Matt, question for you. Do you feel audio has a more potential to go much deeper into those habit forming and the social than the video?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever thought about it like comparing the two. To me, we kind of went into audio and just stayed there. I can look at like I can think of examples of exactly what you're saying, like folks that have issues with like it's just a lot of effort. It's very expensive to go with video, and especially for like ad hoc conversations. And this kind of is how Clubhouse just went off the rails initially, right? It was just interesting folk having very ad hoc, random conversation, low barrier to entry. And I don't actually, at that time, they didn't even have chat. So I don't know engagement, if you could even count that. They really didn't have those other layers. And yet they still saw like so much success. I'm not sure if I have like a really good answer if audio is like better than video. But there's certainly, as you mentioned, like a lot of benefits to audio overall.
I would see it as almost like a continuum. Like you want users to engage, like at least the way that we think about it. Like when somebody comes to the platform, you definitely want them to upvote. At least you want them to upvote something that's very cheap, that doesn't cost you. Then maybe you want them to type a reaction or a text message or interact with another person from the broader social group, as we were discussing earlier. And then if everything goes really well, then they really get committed. Then perhaps they do go to the extent of like doing a video cast on top of the content or doing an audio conversation around it, right? Like it's kind of like levels of engagement that you want to encourage. Yes, audio is going to be cheaper than or more accessible to more people than a video chat context. I would think.
Yeah, for sure.
Correct. Now I think a lot of audience will be very interested with one question, right? And I got asked this a lot. How do you make money? So, Tony, I agree with everything you have to say. Actually, I'm a firm believer. But tell me exactly, how do we make money? This is especially true when you have a conversation with, let's say, some traditional media. Some large conglomerate is undergoing digital transformation. So the question goes to Michael first. Like, how does a different stakeholder in your ecosystem at Caffeine.TV is going to make money out of it?
Yeah, I mean, today it's largely prop based, right? Like it's kind of based on the Asian streaming models, where a lot of people do in-app transactions to express how they're feeling about the video content through a prop that they purchase, and then it's sort of broadcasted to the stream. In terms of like long term, I think there's all sorts of models, especially when we're talking about sort of premium interactive content. Some of the content that we've brought to the platform previously was pay-per-view for like $50 a stream, and then it became something that now is given away for free through sort of an effort to broaden the social and number of people watching it, and then having some percentage of them give props. But I think there's a lot of flexibility in the financial model relative to the interactive format that we're delivering this content through, right? Like you can do subscriptions, you can do pay-per-view, you can do sponsorships, you can do advertising, you can do, there's a lot of, it all goes back to what we were saying earlier. If you have the eyeball, if you have the attention and the engagement, then the monetization can happen, right? Like and that's what we're, primarily focused on.
Yeah. Matt, go ahead.
Michael, you outlined like a lot of I think there's really just a finite number of ways you can monetize, like what you outlined. And I think content creators they're not going to lean towards one or the other, right? They're going to try to every angle possible to generate revenue. And the question that I wonder about is like, what is kind of, I guess, going to be the best for their type of content? Like recently I was looking at, Twitch subscription numbers, and like Patreon is also another one, like where they heavily, it seems like a lot of the revenue is generated from subscriptions. And Twitch, I think it was like the top Twitch streamer has something like, I think they generate like 4 million a year just on subscriptions. That's the top. And within the top 100, it goes down to like a million, I think on average, something like that, which is pretty good income for sure. And Patreon, it's like not as popular as Twitch, but their numbers are also relatively high like that. So the subscription model does seem very successful overall. But then, you think about like, will that work for more traditional media, as you were mentioning, Tony? That's kind of like, it does seem like when they're time shifting their content, like a lot of the studios, everyone has their own streaming platform now, and those are all subscription based. I'm curious about I haven't really looked into how well those are doing, but I think just making sure that a platform has all of these options available so that the creators can monetize however they want is going to be important. Making sure that they're built well. Like advertising is probably the most popular way, but it's so hard to execute like well, especially with live content, because users hate it's so hard to time an ad. So I think a creator tool that is pretty common is allowing the creator themselves to choose when to distribute ads. But even when you do that, I mean, the ads, no matter what, it's gonna be disruptive. And if it's like not relevant, like random ads, it's really hard to tell, because I think the creator themselves don't really have the ability to. It's not the creator that makes the deal with the advertiser; it's the platform, right? So then you have this problem where the creator maybe isn't like approving, or whatever's being advertised maybe isn't aligned with what the creator's broadcasting. So maybe if you could come up with some kind of solution where the creator could control, which specific ads they can release, that could be interesting. I'm not sure if anyone's built that, but
well, that's actually interesting. In some sense, like let's go to TikTok, right? They use first-hand data because it's content, it's AI, right? And they can easily recommend you a similar video, looks like a video, but it was really just product placement ads, right?
Oh yeah.
So in that case, I think that would be interesting. I'm actually thinking like, how do you guys think about that? My personal thoughts is, coming down the line, it might just become the AI might become a very important thing in multiple things, right? AI to enhance your video experience, the experience, right? For sure, the helping on the creator side, helping on the monitoring side, and optimize the production value. But most importantly, because Apple has recently all those restrictions on the privacy, right? So you cannot do some aggressive stuff anymore. You have to rely on deliver the right content to the right eyeballs. It's not about deliver the content to 2 million people. It's about deliver that content to 200 that is relevant, willing to drop a G for that.
Yeah. I don't know if we need AI. Have y'all heard of jet fuel?
No, not on my side.
I think they're newer. I looked into them briefly, but their proposal is very interesting. But essentially, they connect influencers with brands in the sense that what you would do is the brand makes a posting, hey, I would like to advertise my bag of chips. And the influencers browse the listings and find some brand that is interesting to them. And then they will submit, like you mentioned, a TikTok video that doesn't even look like an ad. It's just them eating chips or something like that. And they'll submit it. And then as the brand, you can browse all of these submissions and you can approve specific ones. So you could say, hey, look at this influencer. I like this video they made, and you approve it. And then you pay them based on conversion. But a major benefit here is that you can control, you have it's like you mentioned, with the privacy, you need to know, about these users. But you know so much about who's following these people. So if there's like a person that eats a lot of there's like foodies, right? And if a foodie influencer submitted a video of them eating chips, that's going to be a great video because the people that follow them are probably going to like chips or food. I mean, I'm stretching the example a little bit, but you get the idea. I think there's no AI involved, right? It's still like manually like curating, but you're leveraging the influencer network based on their target audience. I think that's like kind of a cool, interesting idea. I know that kind of deviated from the original point, but
no, absolutely not. Actually, I've been thinking about this for a very long time. For example, I noticed the wall behind both of you is empty. How about some AI play some ads over there? Looks like a poster, right? I don't know, a concert post, upcoming stuff, right? And you get the split of that. That is very natural. It does not. One of things, rules of thumb, I usually personally I think is any ad format should not interrupt the media. Right, all the interaction, right? And that's, I believe, is a reason why Google counts over Yahoo. There are times Yahoo is invincible, right? There are times, the banner network, if you remember, but native ad from Google and, totally killed it because it's native. It's not invasive, it's firsthand, and it's smart, right? So I think we may see some of those. And I believe those are very important technology because these technology fuels the creator economics, right? So now more people can make a full-time living, and I think that is a very important factor to look at here. Is how many of the creator can actually make a full-time living, right? That's a very important industry key factor in my opinion, right? So with that, it actually goes to our next question. We actually kind of touched it. My question was, what do you think are the interesting companies or startups, formats, product might came out of this, right? So Matt, you actually answered one of those, kind of like a new advertisement company, right? New ads, right? I mean, what others you think might coming out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the two-sided marketplace element that we're identifying here is in full swing, right? Like it's like people are like influencers are playing particular video games because the video game producers are reaching out to them and telling them to play those games, right? Like I think that those loops are already happening, and in a marketplace for it, or whether it's on platform or off platform, facilitating that, of course, it sounds like it will have a lot of traction. What can we do, or what can I do? I don't know. I mean, like I like a lot of the ideas shared. I mean, like the sort of AI overlays or sponsorships that have two-way buy-in, like where the person producing the content can choose to engage with a particular sponsor and put them in control of their own sort of monetization destiny, right? Like that's ultimately what that's how these two-sided marketplaces work so well, is because people can choose to engage.
Yeah. I don't know if I really could speculate what the best or newest future formats will be. I think right now the industry is kind of just trying to figure that out, right? There's so many players, as you mentioned, Tony, kind of experimenting here. So I think we will see shortly, kind of the formats that will end up being the most effective. But yeah, it's hard to speculate right now, at least for me.
Yeah, point taken. Yeah, I think, however, I think the transformation might be taking years. Like I remember when I first go to college, I had a magazine, Internet Telephony, which is voice over IP, right? And we are still talking about VoIP. It's just called UC. That's been basically 20 years now. So I think this digital transformation of the media is probably an ongoing slow progress for the next 10 years at least, right? So we are at the very beginning. I think we're pretty lucky to be able to witness all those. So given the time we have, I want to go to actually our last kind of our last question, right? Let's say, I mean, this is going to be a random question. Let's say you are not in Caffeine and you are not in Spotify. Like, what would you do? Seeing all this COVID, seeing all with all the knowledge you have, like what the fun things you will do that you will wake up. I'm not saying this is not fun right now, but say like, give me another thing that you will do so the audience can get some idea, like,
Oh, those ideas are expensive, Tony. Very expensive.
I mean, I like the idea of the AI overlay into the graph. Build a OBS plugin to throw in some overlays for ads on walls. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I like ideas around kind of the content creator community, sort of leveraging, making the ecosystem more fair for the content creators in various ways, which there's tons of stuff going on in that space, of course, with in all sorts of ways. So things that provide cross-platform leverage, like easier audience migration, easier ways to pull, to own your audience essentially, right? Like, because today you don't really own your audience. The platform kind of owns your audience, and ways to kind of make that easier for people. I guess there's the very big producers have that flexibility to take audience with them, but ways to make it more fluid, and that make it more of a marketplace, more fluid, so that people that are creators that have audience can have a little bit more flexibility in the platform context that they produce towards.
Sure. Yeah, and just like leveraging the technology that we were talking about today. Just there's so much new technologies out there. Leveraging them, the barrier to entry is just getting lower and lower. Just experimenting with interactivity. I think that's really fun stuff. Just we like the concert hall energy. Just getting people involved.
Okay. So talking about concert, right? I mean, we did the poll while we chatting with the audience. Live concert turns out to be one of the most interesting content they want to see in an audio app, right? So I mean, that's probably right in your alley, like live concert. And then Matt, you're doing some live concert too, right? So I'd like to drill down just because that's kind of like audience feedback. Like, what do you see the future of the live concert, post-COVID would be? Is it going to be a hybrid concert, or like what is that going to be down the line in the future? I mean, after COVID is lifted.
Yeah, concerts are an interesting case here because I think the success of live streaming concerts is like heavily influenced by the COVID situation. I think like I mean, personally, I was looking at some shows like in the fall. Obviously, the Delta variant has canceled a lot of things, but everything is still solid booked. Seats are still like crazy expensive. Demand is still like there for live shows, and people are actually potentially even like thirstier because they've been trapped indoors for so long. At this point, I kind of sound like some kind of Twitch. Like I don't know. I've been talking about Twitch too much, but if you go to Twitch.tv, they always will recommend a broadcast, always, since the beginning. And they will, I think originally it was hand curated, but potentially now it's AI based. It's unclear to me. But when you go to Twitch.tv, it'll autoplay a broadcast. And what you can notice is that actually in the past few months, or even throughout the past year, they've been pushing a lot of music. Music has become more and more popular as kind of a lot to be streaming in live. Also, if y'all browse Reddit also has live streaming, and a lot of their top broadcasters are all music. So I think there is a lot of potential there, but it is hard to say how much like COVID is influencing it. I guess we'll have to see.
I mean, one question I have: do you think post-COVID it will be like hybrid? So you have live with people within 100 miles, but virtual when people, the rest of the world can join.
Yeah,
do you think that will be like that?
Yeah, I think so. It's just like as there's no reason not to. It's just unlocking more revenue. I don't see now that the technology is there, and a lot of these like production houses they have the ability to produce these streams now. I don't see any reason why they would just stop. I think, yeah, we will end up seeing like hybrid shows for sure of live and virtual.
I think that the interactive format or means to differentiate from just sort of a just a recasting of a live event, I think will also play a factor in how successful those are, because it's not. I don't know how much people gravitate towards. Well, I don't know. I guess live concerts have always been a thing, but they certainly not as. There's certainly elements that are missing from the current like linear live concert experience.
Yeah, basically the fun part is missing.
The fun part, yeah. Where's all the
content is there. So okay, with 5 minutes left, we're gonna open up FAQ for our audience. If there's anyone, please submit. But if not, I actually have as the audience is giving their questions, I actually want to continue to ask you, Michael. So you do a lot, street music right now, right? Mm-hmm. So I would imagine like there is more interactive on your end, and people really want to just hang out together. Like, do you observe, like, back to the concert one, right? What do you think is the fun part? Like, we talk about fun part. I mean, what do you
the model
is fun part?
Yeah, the model is largely competitive based streaming, so it's like battle rap specifically more so than a concert generally, right? So there's an element of competition, and then the audience like trash talks either one of the competitors or says that one person is dropping a rhyme that is very poignant or not, and then it culminates into a vote, right? So then people are voting for either a performer or artist, and then that determines the outcome, and then the broadcaster says you have won, or the audience decided that you have won. And so there's the format is integral with, like that's what I was getting at earlier. Like, it's not just a linear concert stream where you kind of just drop props for fun. It's those props and those votes and those interactions culminate into the content itself, related to whether the outcome of the rap battle is determined by your participation.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, rap battle is always one of the things I'm very fascinated about. I was just fascinated, how can you come up with such lyrically beautiful, insulting words about so personalized,
it's very dynamic too.
Yeah, Tony, I saw you got a Harry Mack, right? Have you heard him? That man is a genius. Actually, it's like so shocking. Like some of the content he puts out is just jaw-dropping, amazing. Yeah, I agree. It's crazy.
I think a credit goes to our amazing marketing team to doing that, and was able to obtain him. We're trying to Michael's point, we're trying to make this a virtual conference a little bit more fun, right? So I think that's probably the one thing. In the end of the day, we are just monkeys looking for fun, right? So yes, we are doing something like for work, right? But you have to keep that in mind, right? You have to keep that in mind. It need to be easier. Like, quietly leave. I think that was the one. That button is probably the most creative button I see in product design in 10 years, right? Leave quietly. Sorry, from Clubhouse, leave quietly, right? That's very important. Yeah. It captures the essence of the fatigue of too many conference calls, right? And too corporate. Right. And the other thing is, I think, to make it fun, right? I think make it fun is very important because it's a positive energy that you are willing to spend money for. That is why. And they'll come back again. That great impression you have in your mind, in your subconscious, is a reason you come back when you are boring at 11 p.m., when you are driving. That is a reason when you open up the app. So you don't have to say, oh, how do I train it? Well, make sure they leave the app with a smile. That's what you need to do, right? Basically, and every social function interactivity is going to be surrounding with that, right? And then leverage the social networks. One thing important for me is I believe both of you, what they're doing is metaverse. It's persistent, social graph driven, right? With great content into it and influence human intention, and then monetization built into it, right? So as such, I think the persistency is going to be very important. It's just my personal thinking, like, because no content will, you cannot really moderate 24/7 content, right? So the persist, I think one of the things we can see is Roblox, the persistent, the way they open up, allow other people to build on top, right? That to me is persistent. Persistent. So going back to Asia app example, when they create fan page for all their KOL hosts, right? A lot of times is managed by the fan. So it is, yes, while the let's say the rapper is not there, but the groupie is there, right? And that is a content tool, that is engagement too, right? So that's very interesting. Now, having said that, let me just check if there is any questions from the audience.
It looked like there were a few, but I think you covered.
Yes, I think I covered most of those. Yes, I think that's really about it. I think we have a great time. Well, we're at the 2, so I thank you for joining us. I will pass the camera and the mic back to Kayla.
Thanks, Tony, for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you so much, Matt and Michael. This was a really great, informative session. To our audience, please make sure to check out our next sessions. We have a great lineup coming up, and we also have a trivia game at 4 if you want to have some fun, and we also have a great prize for the winner. So, yeah, thank you so much, and take care.